Good evening. Welcome to the Pearl Report. I'm Diana Lin. It's a huge tragedy and big news if even one child is kidnapped in Hong Kong. Well, 20,000 kids are reportedly abducted in mainland China every year. Families buy these kidnapped children to raise with the blessings of local governments. And the police beat up grieving parents seeking help to find their lost children. Producer Joyce Liu exposes the collusion among officials, police, kidnappers and their buyers, and the family tragedies they cause. For 26 years, Lan Mingxiu longed to hug her son, Li Wei, again. Neijiang, Sichuan province. Li Wei was 4 years old.
September 29th, 1989. He wore a green sweater, barefoot. It's drizzling. He said, "I'm playing outside." I said, "Don't go far." I went home to reheat food, came out again and couldn't find the child.
Li Wei was with his 13-year-old friend, who told Lan a man and a woman in their 30s had approached them.
He said the woman gave me 1 yuan to buy oranges. I took the oranges home to share with my mom. I then remembered about Li Wei.
Li Wei was kidnapped. Li is among hundreds of thousands of mainland kids wrenched from their families since the late 1980s.
Because from the 1980s, we had the one-child policy. Chinese people like to have more children. Brings good fortune.
Especially sons.
This kind of demand led to the problem of missing children.
Zhou says couples wanting a second child faced forced abortion or a fine of hundreds of thousands of yuan. So, many families opt to buy a kidnapped child and raise him pretending he belonged to a relative or was an abandoned kid. Around the new millennium, kidnappers were targeting impoverished families in Guizhou who often left their kids unattended. Later, they zeroed in on migrant workers in prosperous provinces. Zhou says from 2005 to 2007, hundreds of kids went missing in just one district in Kunming, Yunnan province.
Migrant workers are not like well-off urban families who have caretakers to look after their kids. They can only pick up their kids after work. Usually, they don't even know who to leave their kids with or take them along to their workplace. Then they go missing in a blink. They've been kidnapped.
Lan Mingxiu reported her son's disappearance to the police, who failed to find him. So Lan, then in her 20s, struck out on her own.
Villagers warm-heartedly help people. If people were selling their own or buying others' kids, they'd secretly tell me to check for my son.
Once someone told her a trafficker in a village in Fujian province was selling children nabbed from Sichuan province. Lan went to Fujian.
I was followed at the village. I stayed in, hid myself for 2 days, then returned home.
Then Lan was told by a relative living in a remote village in Sichuan province about a kidnapper named Xie Guangsong.
He was cunning, said he's a wood dealer.
Lan, in the guise of a potential business partner, met Xie alone.
To find my child, I wasn't afraid of anything.
Lan said Xie eventually asked her to become a kidnapper too.
He said, "Don't worry, my uncle's the police chief. When I get caught for kidnapping, I just pay the fine."
Then Xie asked Lan to kidnap an 18-year-old girl he knew.
I couldn't say no.
Without exposing herself,
He said, "Tomorrow you take her shopping. You put the girl onto a bus, then you get off, leaving her on board. We'll have someone nab her. I put the girl on the bus, but took her off. I told Xie the girl wasn't duped to convince him I did as told.
Lan says Xie then showed her a box with hundreds of receipts, each for thousands of yuan.
Receipts for fines for nabbing and selling kids.
Lan says she surreptitiously searched for her son's name among the receipts. But Xie became suspicious and Lan soon fled back home.
My family hates me for not caring for our son, blamed me for losing him.
Lan says her husband started beating her.
He beat me, 85 bruises all over. My face swollen like a pig, beaten near to death. Lan got a divorce and fled to Guangzhou in 1994. On bad days in Guangzhou, I ate only a cucumber and a bun.
Lan says she eked out a living from part-time jobs.
I'm tough. I lost my son, but I smile brilliantly. I must stand strong.
After settling down, Lan brought her daughter, Li Dan, from Sichuan to Guangzhou. Dan is 2 years younger than Li Wei.
I wouldn't be alive without my daughter.
But in 2013, Li Dan, who's a lawyer, was diagnosed with leukemia.
Are the gods so brutal? 26 years ago, I lost a living son. 25 years on, I face my daughter's death. Is this my destiny? I won't surrender.
Mother and daughter realized they needed a bone marrow transplant from Li Wei.
I dream that if we can find my brother, it will fulfill my mom's wishes to find her son and save my life.
A friend of Lan told her story to a Beijing TV station, which invited Lan onto a show. Then a viewer messaged Lan.
Said he saw your son's photo. That boy's in my village.
Liu Baoduang village of Hebei province.
He said, don't betray me. Villagers are malicious. They'll oust me.
The viewer also revealed Li Wei is now named Jiang Xin. But DNA proof would take 2 months. Li Dan was too sick to wait. Finally, her dad donated his bone marrow. March 11th, 2015, an auspicious day. Li Dan's surgery was deemed successful, and DNA tests showed Jiang Xin is indeed Li Wei.
I was stunned, my mind a blank, my hand, my body trembled.
Lan rushed to Hebei province to reunite with Li Wei, then accompanied her son to Sichuan to meet his biological dad. But in the end, Li Wei opted to return to the village where he was sold. In Liu Baoduang, most locals make a living spinning and selling wool bought from northern China. 26 years ago, Li Wei was brought here by his kidnappers and sold to a local family.
This village has over 100 kids who've been bought.
Many people in Shandong also bought kids. The situation is severe in Henan and even worse in Guangdong and Fujian.
All along, villagers believe a son can carry on the family lineage. Having a daughter is a great shame.
My son's good. Everyone wanted him. In an auction, who paid the most got him.
The Jiang family had paid an undisclosed sum for the 4-year-old Li Wei and later another abducted boy. The family has 3 daughters. In mainland China, everyone has to have a hukou or household registration, verified by a birth certificate and approved by the local government and the police. Li Wei says 26 years ago, his adoptive father's friend, Zhang Rongkun, a village official, helped get his hukou.
They have a sort of relationship, no money was needed to sort things out. Ordinary villagers certainly gave gifts. If they all worked for the village and know each other, they mostly hosted meals.
Back in Hong Kong, we phoned the County Deputy Police Chief, Li Jianjun, who oversaw Liu Baozhuang village.
给孩子再重新上户口是需要有出生证明的呀，当时你们没有查过吗？20年以前的时候没有。有没有一种情况是你们包庇那些买家，然后就帮这些小孩上户口啊？不可能。
It's estimated 200,000 children go missing in mainland China every year. How do they get their household registration? Chinese media reports a birth certificate costs several thousand yuan and a household registration around 50,000 yuan.
From the hospital to village committees and local government to public security issuing hukou, they all have vested interests.
A case in point, Lan Mingxiu got hold of a list of 9 kidnapped children and their adoptive families and publicly exposed them.
It shocked the police, government and village heads. The police went to collect the 9 kids' blood.
The mainland has a DNA database to match missing children with their parents, but the police didn't even bother to test the blood for DNA.
If they did it, it would be a mess, let alone incumbent officials. Officials of 20 years ago would be implicated.
Zhou knows few officials have ever been punished in connection with abducted kids. Coming up after the break, should adoptive families also be punished?
Adoptive mums did the original crime. No buyers, no kidnappers.
Instead, parents of kidnapped kids bear the brunt of brutality.
As long as they don't kill me, I'll continue petitioning. I suffer so much for my son, but I feel reconciled.
Stay with us. Welcome back to the Pearl Report. Until recently, families in mainland China can buy and raise kidnapped children with impunity if they don't mistreat them. Not only does officialdom condone the practice, police frequently attack long-suffering parents of kidnapped kids for making a fuss. And a worse blow for these parents, kids who were nabbed when they were very young, might not want to go back to their biological families. Li Wei was reunited last year with his biological parents and sibling after 26 years.
Of course, I want to be with my biological mom. She looked for me for over 20 years. I should make up for those years.
But after a few days, Li decided to take his wife and son back to the Hebei village, where he was sold to a couple he now calls dad and mum.
My dad has died, leaving my mom alone. My sisters have married. My younger brother has left home. My mom is alone. She did raise me for more than 20 years. It's not easy.
To the consternation of Li's real mum,
Adoptive mums did the original crime. No buyers, no kidnappers.
when Lan went to Hebei to see her son, she demanded to meet the adoptive mother, but she says a provincial official stopped her and urged her to forgive the adoptive family, saying, after all, the family did raise Li Wei.
I was exasperated. Wrong. They built their joy upon my misery.
China's criminal law Article 241 has a maximum 3-year jail term for families buying abducted kids, but exempts those who don't mistreat or obstruct the rescue of the kids. That exemption was removed last year, but their punishment would still be lighter than for those who do abuse the children or hamper their rescue. Volunteer Zhou Yanhong knows few buyers of kidnapped children have ever been jailed.
China is a humane society. People think if the family treats their adoptive children well, they don't consider the buying and selling of children a crime. Local law enforcers also tend not to judge such cases from a legal perspective.
The Ministry of Public Security in Beijing refused to reply to our request for comments.
I certainly won't let police arrest my mom. She never mistreated me, and it was 20 years ago, not now. If my mom had bought me after the law was amended, then she would have deliberately flouted the law.
Li Mingxi wanted to sue the adoptive mum, but refrained in the end.
I just repressed it in my heart. I don't want my son to feel bad.
Lan wanted her son, named Jiang Xin by his buyers, to at least change his name back to Li Wei.
My mom over here would be unhappy.
Eventually, Lan compromised by having Li Wei added alongside Jiang Xin on his household registration.
Of course, searching so hard for him for decades, we want a good ending, a family happily reunited. It'd be great.
两位，你记得我们上次丢了这个小孩了吧？我现在就是10年了。
In 2006, Xiao Chaohua and his wife came from Jiangxi province to Guangdong's Huizhou city to run a clothing shop.
My shop used to be here.
On February 14, 2007, his 4-year-old son, Xiao Xiaosong, went with his 10-year-old sister to this convenience store to buy milk. He became separated from his sibling and never returned home.
So we went out to search everywhere, but couldn't find him.
Xiao Chaohua phoned the police.
The police said the kid must be kidnapped. They said this without trying to investigate.
The police opened the case 10 days later.
Many villagers or suburban areas didn't have the sort of closed-circuit television coverage we have today, so there weren't any clues. If the police can't meet the standard detection rate or open a case and can't solve it, that won't do. They have to consider their career perspectives and performance.
The rate of finding missing children is only 0.1%.
The police force is inadequate. There's no officer specializing in probing such cases.
Xiao Chaohua suspects one of his in-laws kidnapped his son. The police agreed to get a list of his phone calls.
This is my in-law's private number.
The record shows on the night his son went missing, the in-law called the same number more than 10 times.
This is Luo Jianfu's private phone.
Xiao suspects Luo Jianfu, a local policeman, conspired with his relative to abduct his child, but the police refused to investigate further. Helpless, Xiao started searching for his son on his own.
I rode my motorcycle throughout Guangdong province, posting notices about my boy everywhere. It attracted a lot of scams.
One scammer demanded 40,000 yuan for rescuing his son, but disappeared after getting the money.
My heart froze. I felt extremely disappointed. There and then, I sat by the sea and cried for a while.
Xiao extended his search to many other provinces and encountered posters about missing children and collected contact numbers of the parents.
200 parents from Guangdong province, mostly from Dongguan.
The parents cooperated in gathering information on kidnapped children. These kids were sold on average 13,000 yuan each. Boys are more expensive than girls. Parents from various provinces gathered clues and asked the police to investigate, but to no avail.
We petitioned the municipal government, no result. Provincial government, still no result. The only thing left was to go to Beijing.
Xiao said in Beijing, police besieged their hotel.
Some parents contacted the foreign media.
Some Canadian and American reporters turned up.
The police went berserk, saying such news can't be spread overseas, and blocked the foreign cameramen.
Then the police put the petitioning parents onto a bus for the State Bureau for Letters and Calls. They submitted their petition there and were immediately driven back to their home provinces. This March, at the National People's Congress and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, Xiao and other families went to Beijing again. Xiao says officials from Guangdong went there purposely to intercept their petition.
These officials feared our petition would affect their careers. They might be demoted or fined.
This May, Xiao again petitioned Guangdong's Public Security Bureau and was detained for 5 days. He says he was put in a 200 square foot cell with criminals and fed only boiled cabbage.
It's not a place for humans. I can do nothing but endure this pressure.
You guys have the time. Why don't you catch criminals? Why target us?
Parents of kidnapped kids have recorded frequent violent attacks by police. This video shows Lan Mingxiu being beaten.
This country has no rules to organize parents to search properly for their missing kids. They hold events. They're attacked, accused of disrupting social order and causing riots.
As long as they don't kill me, I'll continue petitioning. I suffer so much for my son, but I feel reconciled.
The Guangdong Provincial Public Security Department refused to comment. In 2012, Xiao started doing some volunteer chores for an anti-trafficking NGO called Dongshufang Public Welfare Fund that bankrolls hundreds of parents searching for their missing children across China.
This is our car for the search of missing children. Every year we organize several trips for parents.
On each trip, 7 parents are driven across 3 provinces for a month. They've traversed most major provinces to disseminate information on missing children, attracting much public support. Since 2012, hundreds of missing children's photos have been paraded on this car. At least 5 of the kids have reunited with their families. This is the theme song of the Dongshufang Public Welfare Fund. It also runs a Weibo account mobilizing the public to take photos of child beggars and post them online. Since 2010, it's gathered 200,000 followers and helped unite 9 kids with their families.
We can't say it's us who found them. It's public effort that made it happen.
45-year-old artist Li Yueling has volunteered for the organization for 4 years.
Everyone uses his own way to help this disadvantaged group.
Li meets with parents, paints pictures of their missing children, and exhibits them, so far in Beijing, Shanghai, Nanjing, and Xiamen.
If a young person comes up and says this painting looks like me as a child, then find his biological family, it would be great.
Tens of thousands of people have visited Li's exhibitions.
I hope everyone can be aware of this. Don't think it has nothing to do with you.